looks at public transport, walking and cycling, and public health in the same way, in the same agenda. I'm particularly delighted that Anna Soubry's been here, and I may say genuinely how enthusiastic I am to have a colleague in government, a public health minister, who's so enthusiastic about cycling and walking, and it's going to aid that cross-departmental work which is so important to the government's agenda. Can I also thank David Ogilvie for his very interesting presentation with some very useful stats, which I shall certainly take back to the Department for Transport and share with my colleagues there as well. Really excellent presentation. The Active Travel People Survey, which was published in August, demonstrates varying levels of activity in terms of active travel across the UK. Dr. Ogilvie will know, coming from Cambridge, that Cambridge in fact has the highest level of such activity recorded anywhere in England, with over 50% of adults cycling at least once a week. There are other areas of the country where we don't do quite so well. Here in Leicester, there's been a big upturn in the number of people who are cycling over the last 5 years, 150% increase. But Rory himself recognises, I think, that there's more to do in the city, and the idea of this sort of conference to bring people together to share good ideas is indeed very welcome at driving those numbers up. Dr. Ogilvie referred to the transport challenge, and I think it's quite right that we do look at these matters both from the public health point of view and from the constraints which apply to ending up where we want to get to, which is more people cycling and walking. There is no doubt that the transport challenge is partly about public health, but it's also about other aspects too. It's about making sure that we reduce congestion in our cities, which costs the economy over £10 billion per year. It's about improving the quality of life and reducing noise in our towns and cities. It's also about reducing carbon emissions and air pollution. I was very interested in the suggestion that carbon might be increased by some people driving somewhere in order to undertake cycling and walking activities. I should say I've always found it rather peculiar that people choose to drive to their local leisure centre in order to get on a bike that doesn't go anywhere and exercise that way. And I've suggested to people they might actually save some money and have the same output if they just cycle to the leisure centre and cycle back again without going through the door. So I think people do have to sometimes think about what they're doing in terms of their overall carbon emissions. The health challenge we've heard about very much so, and the need to reduce the physical inactivity. And I might say the slide on diabetes was particularly powerful, I think, in terms of the warning which we have as a society if we don't address this particular issue. And very useful also in government terms, I suppose, to identify the potential costs of not taking action, because that gives Anna and me and others the lever to argue that we need to make sure our policy is particularly joined up and achieves the ends we want to see. The activity levels down a third since the 1960s, and of course there's a cost to the economy as well, around £10 billion from inactivity. And unless we take action, this will sadly decline further. But we have ways of dealing with that, both in the Department of Health and in the Department for Transport. The NICE advice, which is published today, and I very much welcome that, and that again links the health and transport agendas, demonstrates that walking and cycling are cost-effective ways of improving public health. The cycle demonstration towns, which we had under the last government, demonstrated that each pound spent delivered £2.50 worth of health benefits. And the transport benefits, of course, apart from the reduction in congestion for those who are still in their cars and indeed in buses, also demonstrate that we can create growth and cut carbon very effectively through our interventions by supporting walking and cycling. I also was taken by Dr. Ogilvie's point about the need to engage people not simply in their health benefits, which are undoubtedly there, but also in the other benefits which they perceive to be perhaps more short-term. In other words, the speed, predictability and cost advantages of walking and cycling. When I move from my flat in the morning to the Department for Transport, I've worked out it's 18 minutes to walk from my flat to the department. It takes 21 minutes by bus to make that journey, and it takes about 7 minutes if I cycle. So in other words, it's advantageous to me to either walk or cycle in the morning rather than take the bus, let alone any, dare I say, an ministerial car, which I don't have one, by the way, which would take even longer, no doubt, in the traffic without the benefit of the bus lane, which does exist. And of course, if you walk or cycle, you've got a pretty good idea when you're going to arrive. The journey time is one that you can estimate. You cannot make the same estimation for a journey by car or even by bus, where you don't know what the traffic jam is going to be on a particular day. So if you want to arrive at a particular time, then you should walk or cycle, or dare I say, as a Minister for Rail Performance, take the train, which was bang on time this morning, arriving from London. And of course, in cost terms, what could be cheaper than walking and cycling as opposed to any other form of transport? So there are real advantages that we can push to persuade people to do something which is in their own public health interest, as well as the interest of the economy and the environment as well. I'm going to say that this government has been hugely enthusiastic about cycling right from day one, and has put a lot of money behind what we're doing to encourage cycling and walking for that matter. The Local Sustainable Transport Fund, which was a new creation in 2010, which I launched, has allocated £600 million towards local transport interventions, and by encouraging match funding, which just makes the money go further, but also gets buy-in from local areas, we pushed that figure to over £1 billion. That's a huge investment across England in local sustainable transport. And most of those schemes have included elements to promote cycling and walking. So this isn't simply they converted the beacons of good practice across the country. This is everybody now engaging in these activities at local level as a consequence of the Local Sustainable Transport Fund. And of course that fund is also funded bikeability, which we gave a guarantee right at the beginning we would keep going throughout this Parliament, and we've increased funding on that for the next couple of years as well. On top of that, we've been able to find extra sums of money through departmental prudent financial management to pump prime particular schemes as you go along. So I've made available funds to Sustrans, for example, to produce new cycle routes, often between residential areas and places of employment, so people can cycle to work or walk to work rather than having a long detour by car. I've made available monies to the Cycle Rail Working Group in order to improve the amount of cycle parking at stations. And we saw that picture of Ely on the screen just a moment ago. I have to say, whenever we put in these cycle facilities, they seem to get filled up almost immediately. There seems to be an enormous unmet demand for people who want to park at railway stations. And dare I say, when I came to Leicester today, brand new entrance to the station, fantastic job has been done there. But the cycle parking there was completely full up, and people were chained their bikes to the railings. So we need more cycle parking, please, at Leicester station as well, it seems, by what I saw this morning. And we've also put money, of course, into tackling dangerous junctions. £30 million been allocated to dangerous junctions, 15 million in London and 15 million elsewhere, to deal with the genuine issue of specific hotspots where there have been, sadly, accidents on a regular basis, and particularly related to the issue of lorries and buses turning left and catching cyclists on the inside, which is a particular issue which we've identified as a major problem. But I want to make this point, and it comes back to one of Dr. Bogawee's slides. It's much less good for your health if you stop cycling because of a perceived concern about the accident rate than it is if you carry on cycling. The enormous benefits of cycling to health far outweigh the sad incidents which occasionally occur. And I don't want to overestimate this, nor do I want to take it for granted and be complacent about it. But it's much better in overall health terms to be cycling than it is not to be cycling from a fear of accidents which may occur. But I want to do more. We want to do more, and we're always looking for opportunities to do more to promote cycling. And therefore, I'm happy to announce this morning, I told Parliament 51 minutes ago, and I should tell you now that we've, as a consequence of further prudent financial management, the Department for Transport been able to identify further £20 million, which I'm today announcing to be spent on further cycle interventions. That will provide more money for safe routes through Sustrans, more money for cycle rail parking at stations, and more money to tackle dangerous junctions, which we've identified up and down the country thanks to the Times campaign and other such campaigns from local people. And I hope very much you'll welcome that further funding which we made available this morning. Despite the difficult economic circumstances which we have, and we all know about that with the Eurozone and everything else, we are determined to make monies available to promote cycling and walking where we can, and this further £20 million this morning is just more evidence of that. We're also determined, as I've mentioned, to work with our colleagues across government, in the Department for Health, most notably, but also in the Education Department and communities and local governments, the Treasury, of course, and other departments, to make sure that we get the best value for our money by our interventions in government. That's why we've collaborated with the Department of Health on our white papers, both the public transport white paper and the public health white paper, which have an input from each of our departments. It's why we've inputted into the Cycle Forum, and it's why we welcome the contributions to the evaluation of the cycling cities and towns. We also welcome, as mentioned, the NICE guidance, which I think is a useful contribution to the debate, which recommends stronger interventions in walking and cycling and focuses on the integration of transport modes, places of work, shops and leisure. And I should say that in terms of the integration, and again Dr. Ogilvie referred to this in his presentation with the park and ride position, we are shortly to publish in the Department for Transport a door-to-door journey strategy to identify how we can make that journey from someone's front door to the door they want to end up at one that they can make predictably and sustainably, involving different modes of transport. Because far too often people will undertake a journey and they want to get, say, 2 miles outside Norwich. They know how to get to Norwich, they don't know how to undertake the last 2 miles, and therefore what they do is drive the whole way. When actually there is a sustainable answer to that involving walking, cycling, or a bus at one end, a train, walking, cycling, or a bus at the other end. And making that door-to-door journey easier is key to unlocking some of the sustainability options which undoubtedly do exist and are there now. So we'll be publishing that document in the not-too-distant future. This is an opportune moment to build on what's been a very good summer. Not simply from the Olympics, of course, but also from the traffic management point of view, which took place in London and which I think was handled very, very well. We were told, by the way, weren't we, that the transport system is going to collapse by some of our more unhelpful members of the press. The public transport system handled itself very, very well in London. It was a great success. But apart from the public transport system, so was the demand management process that took in place, and then involved encouraging people to walk and cycle rather than take the car or rely on what might have been an overcrowded bus or train. And our challenge, I think, is to make sure we build on that. We build on the success of the traffic management plans which were in London this summer, but also we build on the opportunity to encourage people to think about their travel in different ways. And we build on, of course, a fantastic achievement in the Olympics in terms of cycling, which I hope will encourage people to take to the bikes even more than they have done so far. Anna's right that the new public health responsibilities at local level give a tremendous opportunity to councils from April to combine health and transport in a way that they haven't done before. And when you look at those two things together, and I hope they will look at them together rather than silos at council local level, then they will see that investing in cycling and walking makes great sense for both health and transport points of view. So my message to colleagues at local level is that we in central government are working together in a cohesive manner to try and deliver this agenda, and doing so, I hopefully, effectively. I think we are. My challenge to you at local level is to do the same thing locally and to take advantage of the new powers which you've been given from April to make sure that your strategy going forward is one that delivers for public health and delivers for walking and cycling as well. Thank you.